right. I'm going to call the meeting to order. This meeting is being held in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in the following manner. The annual notice was forwarded to the Asbury Park Press and posted on the municipal bulletin board. All notices are on file with the Planning Board Secretary. Fire exits are located on east and west sides of the council chambers, as well as the rear of the building. I will ask anyone with a cell phone or other device to kindly put it on silent mode for the duration of the meeting. This meeting is being recorded by APTV, just as a reminder. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Today's agenda. Are you?
I'm ready to take that.
Go for it. I was just moving along.
Okay. June 25th, 2018, 7 p.m. Councilwoman Yvonne Clayton, Mayor John Moore, Sarah Ann Towery, here. Michael Manzella,
Here.
Tony Perillo,
Here.
Trudy Syfax, Alexis Taylor,
Here.
Rick Lambert,
Here.
Barbara Krizak.
Here.
Allison McLeod is also here. Forgot me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Allison McLeod, Jim Henry. Sorry.
Just me too.
Okay. The agenda today is going to consist of the approval of the minutes for the meeting of June 11th. We have two items regarding applications and board review. One is a referral from the mayor and council about the Main Street redevelopment plan. And the second one is 1519 3rd Avenue, Block 2009, Lot 8, Zone 1, R1. There's a one resolution that we're going to be voting on. It's the 545 Lake Avenue resolution. We'll get updates from the planning board committees as normal, and that's also the agenda stands as it was published. We have the minutes for the June 11th meeting. Any changes anybody is concerned about? Or
Yeah,
can
I have
we?
a question.
Sure.
And I'm sorry, I know it got sent again, so I'm sorry if I had the older version, but the resolution for 208 Main, it had me making the motion and seconding it.
That's true. Was that changed?
I think, well, I'm sorry. It should be Alexis.
Okay.
Second one was Alexis.
Okay. Anything else? All right. Can I get a motion to approve?
I move to approve the minutes with the amended change.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay. Let's go for the first presentation. Michelle?
Would you like me sworn in?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you. State your name and your affiliation with the city, please.
Michelle Alonso, Director of Planning and Redevelopment for the City of Asbury Park. I'm also a licensed professional planner.
Thank you.
Maybe worthwhile to have the staff sworn in case there's a discussion.
Let's go with it.
Gentlemen, do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give during these proceedings will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
State your names and your affiliation with the city, please.
Michael Sullivan, Clark Hayden, work planner. Doug Cloud, Inside Engineering, Board Engineer.
Thank you.
Hey, good evening, Commissioners. I'm here to present to you the referred amendments to the Main Street redevelopment plan. Actually, before I begin, I made a little map handout just for reference. The city had received a request from Chase Bank to make a plan amendment to the Main Street redevelopment plan because of the interpretation by the zoning officer and then the interpretation by the zoning board of adjustment that banks are not a permitted use in the Main Street redevelopment plan. I handed out a map showing the Sunset Park subzone. This is where the requested amendment would be. It is where the Dunkin' Donuts is, just north of the park. So this amendment would only be for that subzone. And the amendment would be, in your handout, as Exhibit A, proposed land uses and building requirements by character district. The changes are in red. For Sunset Park, we would add banks and fiduciary institutions. And under accessory uses, ATMs, including drive-through ATMs, only as part of banks and fiduciary institutions. And that's to ensure that we don't get a standalone ATM and no bank in case a bank disappears. Because also, coincidentally enough, the PNC Bank is in the subzone as well, but was not a permitted use in the subzone.
So where you say accessory uses, you have ATMs including drive-through. Should the ATMs be taken out so it's implying a standalone ATM?
No, because it's accessory. So this permits a walk-up ATM, and it also, as part of the building, and also permits the drive-through ATM.
It's just making what's always been there since I moved here in 1999 legal.
I'm sorry, say that again?
I'm saying this is already there.
No, PNC is already there, but
Also,
Chase Bank,
PNC's in that zone too. It's always been there.
right, but it's not a permitted use in the zone.
I know, but what I'm saying is it's allowing what's already there in the zone. It's been,
To be there.
right.
That's part of it, but in the green boundary area,
They want to put another bank.
right, Chase would like to go where Dunkin' Donuts is now. It's
Oh, where Dunkin' Donuts
yes.
is now. That was not clear. Okay.
Yes, but the map is to show you that this subzone is quite small, and to show you what would be affected by this change.
So if there is an ATM, a freestanding ATM in this area, you'd have to let people know to remove it?
No,
If there is one?
well, no, if it's existing, it's existing. It's grandfathered. But let's say, because this is one thing I've had a little bit in my career, where banks shut down branches but keep the ATMs. So they would not be able to shut the branch down and just have the ATM by making it an accessory use.
Right, we're just allowing what's there, and we're saying that, if there's another bank comes in, you're allowed to do the same thing.
Right.
That the other bank.
But only as part of the bank.
But only as part of the bank, which is great.
Yeah, makes sense.
I seem to remember, and I might be off, but maybe somebody else can help me here, but I think that at that Kennedy Fried Chicken and Pizza, I think there's an ATM out there. That just might be from my memory, it might be totally wrong. But you're saying that those are grandfathered because it already, let's just say, for argument's sake, that it already exists. Would that be grandfathered? That said, you know what, it's okay that it's there?
Yes.
Okay, I believe it is,
I'm not sure.
I don't know why I'm thinking.
Is it inside or outside?
Outside. I believe, now you know
I know
what,
it
I
says
could be totally
ATM,
wrong.
but it may be inside. I cut through there all the time going to Frank's, and I
Right.
can't remember.
Yeah, but so if it's there already, it stays, it's okay because it's grandfathered. Anything new has to adhere to it. So
Right, and
I thought it was outside. Looks like it's, okay. It looks like, yeah, you're right. What's that, is that a phone? It's a phone. Okay, it looks like it's the sign that says ATM, there's probably an ATM inside. Okay, so we're good.
Michelle, why would we not put that accessory use comment on ATMs on the other subzones that have banks and fiduciary institutions allowed? Such as the Civic, the Community, and the North.
Well, just because I was trying I was focused on just the one amendment, but if the board would like to make that recommendation, we can add it.
Otherwise, we have to come back when something comes up on
I
18.
don't
Right.
think that that's a bad idea.
Sure.
Because it makes sense for us to do it.
Yeah, because there are lots of banks downtown.
Right. And this is allowing this is also allowing banks to be in these areas. Is that something that we want?
Well, we already have one.
I mean, in here, I'm saying in
Oh, I know.
these other areas.
Well, the
Well, the banks are already allowed.
principal use.
Well, no, the bank is allowed in the civic core,
Right.
North
Community.
Gateway, community.
Oh, no banks in the community, sorry. No banks in the community.
It's
And the North
It's a
North
North
Gateway.
So it would be if it's Civic and then Asbury, is that what you're saying?
It's the
We wanna add
Civic,
that.
Sunset, and North Gateway would be.
Yes, these three.
the one recommendation though, I think,
Seems weird, but
right, I don't, because I was not here, some other members were
Yeah.
here when well, I'm unsure if other members are here, I think you were when this was passed. I don't know what the logic was behind limiting banks. As a
No, they put it
global,
here as a conditional use.
as a-
North Gateway.
as-
no, I said North is fine.
as a
North
planning
Sunset.
practice, some towns do like to limit banks, but more so limit the ATMs. I don't understand for our community because we only have 3 banks in town. So that's why, I think Chasen wants to come in here because there's a market here. Because other municipalities, you see again, banks closing branches, consolidating services because a lot of services are online or just wanting the ATM. Here we have a little reversal.
So I have a question. So in the North Gateway, it has drive-through, drive-through facilities as a conditional use if it's part of the principal use, which gives us the ability to require screening or whatever if it's too visible from the street. Would that be something to consider for this amendment?
I'm going to go into the next part, but because you brought up about permitting this in Civic Core South Gateway as well, the one thing if you look on your second page, it shows you the map with the whole zone area. I don't know if I would permit a drive-through in Civic Core South Gateway, and not only on the nature of that section of Main Street, but our transit village designation prohibits drive-throughs.
Yeah, and I think part of the goal is to limit the amount of access from Main Street and have access to lots on the side streets, right? Isn't that part of
Right,
the goal of the Main Street redevelopment plan?
right, but
The comment on the Sunset is ATMs, including drive-through ATMs.
because back
So
onto
it's
the
Two
nature.
separate points.
Right, because I'm not saying to limit the ATM as the accessory, but I'm saying for Civic Core South Gateway, not to have a drive-through ATM. And I thought, thinking about this and looking at the map of these subzones, that I think a lot of us could agree that the nature and the feel of Main Street in the Sunset Park zone and the North Gateway zone has a very different feel than Community Shopping Zone, Asbury Avenue Gateway, and Civic Core. And you already have some drive-throughs there. You have more car-oriented retail, and I have to say, North Gateway kind of talks to that a little bit. But one of the reasons I was also trying to make this a very limited amendment is that Chase has originally came in, and they still would, using the existing Dunkin' Donuts building with its existing drive-through.
So that was my question. They're not going to do any new construction. It's going to be just like, because the drive-through actually jumps the traffic onto Sunset. It doesn't come onto Main Street.
Right, and you can see that too in the if your eyes are better than mine, you can see that in the Google map photo of that layout, that drive-through with the Dunkin' Donuts. And because of that, I left in here the bulk I didn't change the bulk standard. So if they were going to do new construction, they would have to conform with the bulk standards for the zone, which does not allow as deep a setback as there is with the original building. When they make this application, because they're going to reuse this original building, they will come to this board and have to ask for bulk variances to use this building.
So I just want to make sure that if they decide later that they actually do want to tear the building down and build something new, that they're not going to be able to put a drive-through that empties right onto a Main Street.
Well, that then we should put a provision that states that there would be no new curb cut for a drive-through
That's what I was just wondering if
on
maybe we
Main
should make it a
Street.
conditional use, as it is in the North Gateway.
Well, I personally, I use the Chase Bank and I have to go all the way up to Allenhurst to use it. And I live on Sunset and I would want to be able to drive through to my ATM.
No, I think
That's
I mean I
what
think
I
the
do
drive-through is
now.
okay, but that it shouldn't open onto Main Street. That
Right,
it should
that-
either
that it
onto
come- you
Sunset.
come in from Main Street and you empty
Or
out
to the
onto
back
Sunset.
street.
Empty out on the Sunset.
Yeah, I
Right.
think that's fine.
Yeah, I do
Yeah, yeah.
too.
Because that's what they're proposing, what they currently are proposing, because they're going to use the existing Dunkin' Donuts configuration.
And is that, so do we have to put something in here?
I just want to make sure
says
that they continue to
Yeah, we just want to
traffic
use
goes off on the Sunset
the same
and
traffic
drive-through
count.
doesn't come into
Well, we
Main.
can put language to that effect back. So then the next part to address Michael Sullivan's report. Michael Sullivan does recommend that we put drive-through standards for this zone on page, I think Rick, you had the page number. Page 41, where we can insert for this zone some standards such as that, where we can add that there would be no curb cut on Main Street for drive-throughs. And that would ensure
No
that,
additional curb
right,
cut,
Because they will
Right.
have to have a curb cut for the parking lot.
which they do today.
which they do today. Because
Which they do today.
the other thing, they're going to reuse what they have, because to do an additional curb cut on Main Street, you have to make an application to DOT. So it's even just easier and more expedient for them to use what's existing.
Okay, I just want to make sure
Good.
it stays that way.
Yep.
Can I introduce just a consideration of the planning board and thinking about kind of the larger context here? So I understand that Chase Bank has made an application and that the city has somehow identified that this is a good use and wants to, but so we have what are the hours of Chase Bank?
The bank itself,
Yeah.
that I'm not sure. I don't, it could,
We'll assume it's reasonable bank hours, 5, 6.
I think it's 4, but I could.
yeah, and usually a bank typically, I should say traditionally, because some have gone outside the mold, have one late night, meaning to 7 or 8.
And as someone who has, as a pedestrian, gone up to PNC Bank at night, I can tell you it is not comfortable without a car. It's pretty threatening. I'm just bringing this up because the footprint of Dunkin' Donuts is entirely car-driven. It is only meant for cars. So we have, what are the hours of Sunset Park? Directly abutting it, what are the hours of Sunset Park?
There's no restriction of hours.
So we have a 24-hour park across from now 2 business, and we all know Fireman's, the memorial there. So that will not be commercial, that is open space. So we have 2, in the best case scenario, 9 to 6 hour businesses at a pretty important social intersection. I think there should be some consideration to the use and the uses that we want there. Not that banks aren't awesome for convenience, but they're not bringing activity, so we're really not doing anything in order to activate Sunset Park there, except if people happen to want to go to the bank and then have a picnic in Sunset Park. The other thing I will introduce is that banks, for the most part, buy up land that, because they have additional liquidity or revenue, and they buy up land that will be valuable in the future, but have no intention of selling it off until it is fully the most value they could possibly extract from it. So it's not like we would get another use at the time that this is ripe for Main Street. The bank will probably stay there until they can max out their absolute sale of it, and at that point it will still be a Dunkin' Donuts that's now a bank. I just want to introduce that.
This will be a lease.
All right.
Because the traffic pattern that's going on there now with Dunkin' Donuts, it's There's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of
It's
in and
great
out.
activity, actually.
It
I
is.
go to
There's
that
a lot of
Dunkin' Donuts all the
activity.
time. It starts
There's
at
a lot
6
of
a.m.
activity, yes. Starts early.
and there are eyes on the street, and there are people who are there during the day, and they're looking out on the street. I still think that there are crime and safety concerns at that intersection.
I see your point, but I think, from looking at the perspective of that Sunset Park sub-area, its general character is quieter,
Very quiet.
more residential. I'm not sure that, bringing in I don't think, I don't foresee a bank having that much less activity than
No.
a Dunkin' Donuts.
It's just that the hours are.
I mean, the hours are different.
And you have
for
people
sure.
in cars,
Hours.
primarily in cars, for convenience.
I think either way you do.
And if you're trying to use an ATM as a pedestrian, you have to walk across, let's just say it's not pedestrian friendly.
Right.
Yes,
It's true.
that's true.
But I think Michelle's point was like the North Gateway and the Sunset Park areas are already kind of car oriented. Not that they shouldn't be. I don't think we're discouraging it by allowing this, because multifamily is allowed, art galleries are allowed, other things are allowed.
One thing I always thought was problematic about the PNC is that there is no walk-up ATM, that you have to go to the drive-through. So
It's awkward.
yeah, so I mean, do you know if they're going to provide a walk-up ATM in addition to this drive-through? Maybe that
Yes.
they are.
Yes, but if you want, we could make it a requirement.
So I mean, I definitely think
Because
that's
it
an
is
issue
awkward
with
to
PNC.
walk up
Yeah,
to an
it is.
ATM that's in a
Because
driveway.
I've
Correct.
done like coming from
Yes.
Jersey,
It's
that I had to go
always a
there.
safety issue.
Usually, at
Yeah.
least my experience with the walk-up ATMs, you usually put your card in and you get in the door and they're inside.
Right.
Right in the lobby. So
Right.
they're not out in the, they're not.
Direct.
Yeah, but the
It seems
PNC
safer.
Bank the PNC Bank one is. You have to walk up to the drive-through because
Yes.
it's the only one they have.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I
Yeah.
definitely don't want that chase.
So, I guess would we make that then a conditional use, Michelle? Do you think a walk-up ATM?
That it is a walk up a walk up through and in and enclosed
Yes.
as opposed to a drive through.
Yes, I think we should put that if that's the concern of the board.
Oh, you're taking away the drive?
No.
No,
no, no,
in
no.
addition,
Oh,
in addition,
Well, the
you can drive, you can
drive-through-
walk.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
one's
you
a
can walk in,
requirement,
Yeah,
one
that should
is
be a condition.
You can drive, and if you
Optional.
forgot you need more money, you can walk in and
People
get
can
more.
feel safe, right?
Yes.
So then we're concerned about the traffic pattern, and we're concerned about the additional, that no additional curb cuts, and that there is an internal ATM.
I'm concerned about
You're concerned
I'm
about that
concerned
it's a
about-
bank to begin with.
Just
generating an active use, in particular, at a pretty critical intersection in Asbury Park.
Well, there's really nothing active much going on there.
I'll tell you.
Kennedy Fried Chicken, to the contrary, is quite active.
Yeah.
No, it
different
really
ways.
is.
In
It
different
is.
ways, it's active, yes.
Yeah, and it actually has a much later night presence.
Yes, it does.
Mhm.
But then you have PNC across the street, which.
And you have nothing on
And
the
then you have nothing
other on the fourth corner.
on the fourth
Right.
corner, you have nothing. And also that VNA.
And then you have nothing for a block.
Yeah, VNA is also time restricted.
Right, it's a daytime.
But I had to say, the way the Sunset Park subzone was written, it had a few uses that were not super active as well. I mean, one of the oddities with this plan is this is where it focused, one of the areas that in Asbury Avenue Gateway where there would be art galleries and exhibition space, which a lot of times does not have a lot of foot traffic nor typical retail hours. And this zone also permits on the ground floor professional and medical office,
Right.
which it could be go one extreme to the other depending on what the professional office actually is.
I guess, so just playing out a condition, banks like to co-locate, because when one bank sees someplace they can plant their money in real estate, other banks do as well. So let's just say, because it wouldn't be that hard to buy out Kennedy Fried Chicken, and a bank goes there. Because the way that we're now permitting, right, is that a bank could go at Kennedy Fried
Right.
Chicken, it could go where the travel agency is on the south side. That could also be a bank.
I would think, yes, I would say, or whoever's in I'm not sure where the travel agency is, wherever I put the green boundary on the map.
Yeah.
And
Is there a difference between a conditional use that it has a greater level of approval? Because I'm just projecting in the future. I think at the point that you have banks on 3 of these corners, you're going to be objecting to a bank on a 4th.
if you
Well,
want,
the fourth corner is the park, you can't put a bank in
Well,
the
no,
park.
here, and here.
Oh, you meant up zones, yeah.
Like, is there any way to make it conditional use?
meaning, but you would just need to limit it to the particular block and lot. Or limit it to, if you want to really limit it, you would say for the subzone, just north of the park. If you want to continue to further limit it.
Well, no, because I actually even think Kennedy Fried Chicken as a bank would be hugely problematic. It would take away the last corner that's active.
It would, but it's also a much smaller lot that probably wouldn't be able to do a drive-through.
No,
Probably
you
wouldn't
couldn't
even,
do a bank
we
there,
we
it's
could
too
barely,
tiny.
it's a really small lot.
All right, we can
So,
assume,
I
we
think
can
that-
assume that.
I think that that's a fair assumption.
Yeah, I know you couldn't get a bank in there.
All right.
There's no way you could get a bank.
So are we saying, just to clarify for myself, are we saying that you have to have a drive-through and you have, right? Because then, so to Alexis's point, if we're saying it's not big enough to get a drive-through, we're not saying it's not big enough. Like, if we're not requiring a drive-through, then it wouldn't matter. Do you know what I'm saying?
I'm proposing not to require a drive-through, but to require a pedestrian walk-in ATM.
Yeah.
If depending on what the board would like to see and comfort level of the board, you could recommend back to the governing body to limit it to the particular block and lot. If you want to be that, there's different levels of restriction you can do.
Well, it just seems like if we do the North Gateway, which is really kind of car-oriented, and we have drive-through facilities as a conditional use as part of the principal use, that we should be consistent with Sunset Park as well.
To make drive-through ATMs a conditional use?
Yeah. I mean, I understand with this particular development that they're not going to change the configuration of the building and they'll use the drive-through that exists, but that's not to say down the road if we make it just as a accessory use, that they can just come in and do whatever. Whereas it's a conditional use, at least you have some say in it.
Making banks a conditional use?
Not the
No,
banks,
no,
just
no.
the drive-through facility
Well, no, that I
as part of a principal use.
But you're gonna have a principal use that's permitted, plus you're gonna make something else a conditional use on the same lot?
That's how it is in North Gateway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the permitted use, principal use is banks and fiduciary institutions, and then the conditional use is drive-through facilities as part of a principal use.
Right.
but
But they would be conditions.
But I'm sorry, that's a little different because the only zone. No, because it's in the chart for North Gateway, a drive-through as a conditional use. It's not listed as an accessory. That's why it refers you back to conditional use on page 41. What I was proposing is to do the drive-through as, and it says Jack, as conditional use, drive-through facilities as part of a principal use. So it's still accessory, but it has height in requirements. So in other words, if you don't meet these items on page 41, you cannot ask for a variance or a deviation. That's what that means. We could take that to the same level for drive-throughs for this zone. I would shift this language into conditional uses and put that language on page 41 under Sunset Park.
That work for everybody? Yeah, so then we get a chance to have our say,
Sounds
yeah.
Right.
Well, the thing is that is going to be the say, because then they cannot, when you put under conditional, they cannot ask for any relief from the board.
Right.
Okay.
And that's why some of these items are already in here. There's a few shoulds rather than shalls in here, because I have a feeling, you know, some of it, yeah. But I thought the question on hand, or, the commissioner's concern was about just limiting banks. Is that correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
so my concern is that banks look at real estate markets in which there is significant appreciation, and Asbury Park is one of those real estate markets, and they put a branch there and they hold on to it, not in the best interest of when it can be developed, but when they can maximize their profits. That's what banks do. It's common practice. It's why you have banks everywhere, all over any gentrifying area.
So are you saying that, because this is a lease, right? They're not buying this land.
For this particular case, they've said it's a lease, because when I met with them, I said that the use was an underutilization of the lot, and they said, we're leasing it.
Alright.
Because.
I mean, that satisfies some part of the,
Mhm.
yeah.
Well, while we're talking about this area, and you brought up the chicken place across the street. I feel really, I just live down the street, and that's really dangerous feeling. Is there anything that we can do about that?
Well, bank's not gonna make it better.
No, but hey, we all know what it is.
Yeah.
We all know what it is, and is there anything that we can do to?
I mean, is the issue a code enforcement issue? Is the issue?
I don't think that's the issue.
I think it's a law enforcement.
I think
Is
it's
it
a
a
law
law
enforcement
enforcement
issue.
It's
issue?
definitely a law enforcement
Is the
issue.
lighting okay?
What?
No.
Is the lighting okay? Is
No,
it well
no.
lit?
No, it's terrible, and it's scary to walk through
It
there.
is.
Very scary.
If I may, I would like to, I mean, I agree with you. I totally agree with you, but
But there's
maybe we
nothing we
should.
can do with it.
It's not
Right,
part of the
nothing we can do.
request,
I agree.
but I do agree that that's something that maybe we should bring up
If we
to
should try
the
to do
higher
something,
powers, that like
we should
your
do
boss
something.
perhaps, to have
Right.
that discussion.
Right, I'm asking you what the, trying to ask what the issue is.
Yeah,
because
it's more,
this
it's
may
more
not be the
lighting and it's
forum
more of law enforcement
of
to keep it safe.
of what the real issue may be.
Yes.
For purposes of moving the meeting along,
Yes, that's what we wanted.
I move that we approve the amendments as recommended by the Director of Planning with,
You make recommendations. Let's
I'm
know
sorry,
what you
we
got.
recommend to the governing body adoption of the changes with the condition that ATMs, including drive-through ATMs, only as part of banks and fiduciary institutions, is moved to a conditional use.
Before you make this
Yep.
motion, because there's one part that was in the report
Mhm.
that we didn't address.
Okay.
Michael
I rescind.
recommends that these conditions in North Gateway for drive-throughs be also placed for Sunset Park. And I agree, and I would change it again to reiterate that the drive-throughs, we're not permitting drive-throughs overall, it's just drive-through as now a conditional
Yes,
use
conditional
accessory
use,
use of
Thanks.
Sunset Park. We would move that, and we would add the language that the curb cuts for the ATM cannot be on Main Street.
Correct.
And that is a requirement that a bank and fiduciary institution must have a walk-in ATM.
Yes.
I was-
Walk-in ATM, yes.
I was going to say that. as
I
part
just
of-
wanted
Yeah,
to,
yeah, yeah.
before we make the motion,
Yes,
make
yes,
sure
yes.
that's
Yes.
the language
And
that we're
could we
doing.
add the walk-in ATM requirement for the civic zone?
Yes. Do we,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
the only thing, do we do that as a conditional, or we do that as an accessory?
Do it as an accessory.
As a
right?
conditional. Okay.
Yeah, we're fine with
Sure.
either one.
Just another recommendation, not that I have any real recommendations, but I would probably, if it's not defined already, define what a walk-in ATM is, or make it very clear, just so they're not skirting around, what
Yes,
Would you
clearly.
So you can walk
Yeah.
Interior.
Yeah, secure.
Enclosed.
Right, pedestrian oriented.
Yeah, the word
Yes.
interior
Yes,
needs to
lobby.
be there.
Like a lobby type.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's try again.
Okay, let's give it a whirl.
Oh, wait, one more, because, no, okay, okay,
Okay.
I got it.
I move that we recommend the amendments to the Main Street redevelopment plan to the governing body for adoption, with the condition that the ATMs, including drive-through ATMs, only as part of banks and fiduciary institutions for the Sunset Park area, are made a conditional use, with the conditions on page 41, including a walk-in ATM must be included as part of the bank, as well as
As the
no-
traffic patterns.
no additional curb cuts.
That's right, no additional
On
curb
Main-
cuts
On Main Street. Someone second.
Second,
Well, we're gonna add in the ATM for the Civic
for the
Corps,
civic
right?
also,
As a
A walk-up
conditional.
as a
A
condition.
walk-up ATM.
Okay, I
Walk-up
will
ATM.
amend that motion to include a walk-up ATM as a conditional
Yes.
use of banks
And do it for Northern Gateway.
in the Civic Corps and Northern Gateway
Yes.
areas.
Yes,
Yes.
I second that. The
Walk-up
amended one.
ATM being defined as a-
Yes.
Yes, we're gonna define the ATM.
Sarah Ann Towery,
Yes.
Michael Manzella.
Yes.
Tony Perillo,
Yes.
Alexis Taylor,
No.
Rich Lambert,
Yes.
Barbara Prizak,
Yes.
Allison McLeod.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're ready for 1519 Third Avenue? Thank you. All set?
Yep.
Okay.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're here on a continuation of the prior hearing that took place on May 14th. Subsequent to that hearing, based upon a number of recommendations that were given to us by the board, the applicant made a number of changes to the plans. Primarily, the applicant changed the lot widths, creating what will be proposed lot, new lot 8 is going to be 50 feet wide. So that'll be in conformance with the ordinances. And we shrunk proposed lot 9 to 46 feet wide. The driveway that existed on proposed lot 8 is now going to be completely on lot 8. If you remember in the last set of plans, the driveway went over onto lot 9 somewhat. So at this point in time, we believe we've only got 3 potential variances that the combined yard setback, the accessory building, side yard setback, and building coverage. I have Mr. Carpenter here tonight, who's an engineer and planner, who I intend to offer to provide testimony on behalf of the applicant.
You swear or affirm this testimony you give during this that you will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. State your name for the record.
Ray Carpenter.
Good evening, Mr. Carpenter. Could you please provide the board with your credentials?
Yes, I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey since 1976. I've been practicing in the area ever since, licensed planner since 1980. Again, I've actually testified before this board. Maybe you remember Habitat for Humanity about 2-3 months ago. So I am familiar with the standards. So,
And we offer Mr. Carpenter as an expert planner and engineer.
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter, you reviewed the plans that were prepared by Lakeland Surveying,
yes,
dated June 1st, 2018. Correct?
correct.
And I've marked those for the board at Exhibit A5.
Right.
And is that what you have on the easel? Is that a copy of A5? Could you just describe for the board the proposed subdivision of the existing lot into the two new lots?
As the board's recommendation, we shifted the lot line to the west, lot 8, between 8 and 9, so that lot 8 becomes a conforming lot as far as lot area, lot width. But we still require the building coverage, variance, setback requirements, variance, side yard, and rear yard for garage. The line coincides with the western edge of the existing driveway, so we don't have a driveway encroaching on the adjacent lot, which makes the adjacent lot totally independent of the original lot 8. The new lot 9 will be 46 feet wide and not 50 feet wide, so obviously we're asking for a lot width variance. Other than lot width on that lot, the house that's built on that lot will conform to all your zoning requirements as far as building coverage, setbacks, and things of that nature. So it'd be a non-conforming lot as far as lot width is concerned, but it'll conform in every other aspect. So that's basically what the changes were made to the plan. So, and I don't know if we go through the insight letter dated June 6th. I don't know if that was, went through.
No, if you could do that. If you could do, well, it's actually a new letter, so if you could do that, please.
And trying to expedite things. There's a lot of things we can agree to. In the insight letter, items 1 through 7, we agree to. Item 8, followed by D. Comment number 9 deals with the zoning of the new lot. We're not asking for any variance on the new lot. 10 talks about the drainage for the new lot as part of the development. It's required for the village. Number 11.
So that's a generic house box on the new lot. The
Yeah.
generic house box on the vacant lot.
Yeah, the new lot will be basically a conforming structure. So,
And the plans that were submitted, the surveyor actually drew in the proposed building envelope on the new lot, right?
The building envelope is drawn on the new lot 9. So that takes care of item number 11, Joe.
So on 10, we're still at, what are the percentages? Because the 25% is what's allowed. What are the
That's correct.
percentages?
Yes, whatever is allowed on the new lot 9, is what we're going to,
I'm concerned about 8.
lot 8.
Yeah, on lot 8.
Lot 8, what we did, because the lot is now a little bit bigger, the side yard variance is smaller, the building coverage requirement is smaller, the deviation from the required. So by moving the lot line, we've accomplished a couple things. You can't, other than removing the structure on lot 8 and building an entirely new structure, there's no way to bring that into compliance in a lot of these aspects.
But what about the garage? Because if you remove the garage, you would come into compliance, wouldn't you?
That would be the rear yard setback, yes, that's up to the applicant. He didn't mention to me about possibly removing.
Because we're trying to figure out how to get closer to the 25%.
Right, I understand. I mean, you do have a long driveway, and I think it is advantageous to have parking off street. As far as the garage is concerned, I don't know what kind of condition it's in, whether it's actually a usable garage, or whether it's just, that would be up to the applicant to make that decision or if it's engaged.
I think the applicant would prefer to leave the garage.
I don't doubt that.
Yes.
Okay.
So basically, as far as engineering is concerned, it's a pretty straightforward and clear application. Just in the application, we deal about the variance, the variances, and my feeling that two variants, that would be up to the board attorney to indicate to us whether we qualify for C2. It's definitely not a hardship. So I think the benefits have to outweigh the detriments.
That's your application.
Okay.
I don't tell you which one to do.
Okay. Well, I feel it's a C2 variance, and the benefits, well, first of all, let me pass out something. There was, tax map was not included on the subdivision map. So, the delivery of printing up copies, if everyone's want to mark that and pass it around. It gives you a good idea of what the other lots in the area are. And it's pretty much,
Thank you.
I think if you look at the tax map, it shows, if you look at the present condition, you have 10 lots in this block. 7 of those lots don't comply with the side, the lot width requirement. And the lot number 4, even though it meets the lot width requirement, is kind of a tough lot to develop. Because it's one lot, 2 front yard setbacks, and it's not that deep. So what we're proposing is, obviously, you can see in the map, we're going to take a lot, we're going to make 2 lots out of it. If you look on the lots to the left and the lots to the right, the lots to the left are only 30 feet wide. The lots to the right are 45 and 49 feet wide.
48.
So all the lots that front on 3rd Avenue, other than this lot, are non-conforming. And we feel that 46 feet for a lot width in this particular area is more than adequate, because it's kind of like a transition. It doesn't quite meet the requirements, but it doesn't match. It's not as defining as the lots to the left and to the right. The lot depth is fine. It leaves a developable envelope where you can get a decent sized house on the property, you can get a driveway on the property, and you can get a garage. These are all desirable aspects that I think you want for this type of a neighborhood. So the positives are like I said, 7 out of the 10 lots on this block don't comply. We bring in one of those lots. We would be making another lot, 11 lots, but the one lot would be a complying lot, and the other one would be a non-compliant lot, but not in the end. We're providing a driveway to the new structure, which is obviously important. I'm pretty sure these lots, 30-foot wide lots, it's very hard to get the driveway to work. No harm to the established neighborhood. The lots in this neighborhood are all pretty much non-conforming, so a 46-foot wide lot is not that out of sync with the other lots in the block. As far as traffic increases, this is an R1 zone. It's to be developed as a single-family residential lot. The traffic increase on 3rd Avenue will be de minimis, really. talking about at maximum RSI says 10 traffic, 10 trips per day. And I think that's a little high, but that's what the RSI says, and I think that's not going to impact Third Avenue in the least. There's no effect on the air, light, open space. The lot is pretty close to the conforming lot, and I think by maintaining the side yard setback, the building coverage requirements, that answers that question. By establishing this house, will provide a house that's pretty much in keeping with the house that's you're looking for in the area as far as size. It'll be an affordable house, obviously, because it meets those standards. And it says preserve the established neighborhood character. It's going to be a house that's going to be constructed in the same basic architecture as all the houses on the block. So it's not going to stand out as like an ultra-modern or ranch style house, so that becomes fully conforming as far as the neighborhood standard. So as far as the negative aspects, the only negative aspect is that we have a lot that's 46 feet wide instead of 50 feet wide, but it meets a lot of area requirements in order to meet all the other design requirements. So I feel like there's no detriment to the zone plan, nor the
But the building coverage is nowhere near 25%.
What's that?
But the building coverage is nowhere near 25%, so that's a negative.
On the existing.
That's correct.
That's correct. Short of removing that structure and rebuilding it, it would be impossible.
Removing the garage.
You can't alter this house and bring it into.
No, I understand, the house you don't. I'm talking about the garage.
Well,
Okay. All right, are we gonna go through the planner's document?
Can I also just clarify something? When you were talking about your list of positives, you said it was going to be affordable. Did you just mean in a generic sense, or did you mean like affordable housing?
no, I'm not talking about affordable housing. I'm talking about housing that is affordable.
Okay.
In other words, not affordable housing.
Small A.
That's I just wanted
Small A.
to
Small A?
just
Not
wanted
larger.
to clarify.
Not larger.
Thank you.
And are both going to be small A affordable, or just the one on lot 9 is gonna be small A
Well,
affordable?
I don't know what the real estate market is in your neighborhood. House is what it is. So I don't know what the value of that house.
Maybe comparable would be the better terminology than affordable.
Okay. Thank you.
Comparable.
That's fair.
To the planner's document now?
Well, I don't want to go through those points in the planner's letter. I think covered a lot of them from my testimony.
So for clarity, I'm sorry, so for clarity, you're looking for on page 3 of the planner's document, you're looking for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 variances. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Just to clarify too, I want to get this, because this was brought up beforehand, got this report out. There's a couple of
Understood.
inconsistencies, I want to make sure we get the numbers right.
Okay.
In our table,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
For this application.
but not for this application, it
Not
was
for
not
this
for
one,
the
for the last one.
was I sworn?
first.
For the last one, you weren't. You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony given during these proceedings will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, yes.
State your name and your affiliation with the city.
Michael Sullivan, Clark Cuban, planner for the Doug Clement Board Engineer.
Thank you.
So in our first table on page 3, the building coverage has actually gone down because they've changed the size of the deck, correct? That was the
That's
deck,
correct,
right?
correct.
And-
Yes.
And you've expanded the lot area just a little bit.
That's correct.
So this still reflects the 37.32% that was on the last one. What we corrected in this second, on page 4, with the tables, they compare the 2 different ways of calculating it. The applicant's calculated as 30.62, correct?
That's right.
The ordinance would say it's 32.1. They both require variances because either interpretation could be received. We did have a clarification on the floor area ratio through a letter, I believe,
From the architect.
from the architect, correct, which indicated the floor area was just under 2,000 square feet. and that it does not exceed the 50%. It's well below that. Well, I think those are the only two clarifications.
Question on the table on page 3, under principal building setbacks. Yes. Rear yard 25, existing 56.6, proposed 56.6, and then you have an existing non-conforming.
Right. Gotcha.
So it's not an existing
No, it's not.
non-conforming.
You're exactly right.
But what we've done is we diminished all the variance requirements, the requests, other than the setback for the garage. We've diminished the building coverage, we've expanded the side yard setbacks so that we're closer to complying, and we've made the lot width on lot 9, or lot 8 conform. So we have eliminated some variances and we have diminished others by this application.
And just also for clarity, for the board, we are voting only on lot 8, is that correct? Or are we voting on lot 8 and 9?
So this is.
Well,
It's a
on 8
subdivision,
and
so it's
9.
both.
So we have to, okay,
We're not, yeah, we're just voting on the subdivision.
Can't do one without the other.
right, but there's a lot of not available. The lot proposed, lot 9, there's a lot of not availables.
Well,
Because there's no building.
All the requirements there would be.
They'll have to
would
come
meet
back
the
to
ordinance.
us.
They'll have to come back to us if there are variances, you'll have to come back to us if there are variances there.
Right, correct.
Okay.
Absolutely.
But
Okay.
actually, they would go to the board of
Zoning
adjustment,
board,
which
yeah.
is- because
Okay.
it wouldn't be, it's the only reason you
Oh,
have
that's
jurisdiction if you do something.
Cool, all right, go ahead.
Like I think the testimony was, we don't expect to have to need any other variances to build a new home on the newly created lot.
Just before, I know you're contemplating things now, but besides just the generic zoning stuff, we did recommend a couple things, and that is the evaluation of sidewalks, any repairs should be made if you were going to act on this favorably. So, a suggestion regarding if you do have issues about the impervious coverage or building coverage and runoff, that it may be worthwhile putting a condition that there are no more curb cuts and that there's a shared driveway on this. That's one method you may use to sort of mitigate the fact that there's going to be no coverage variance on the home lot. We suggest if there is a new driveway access, that it be avoided with the street trees that exist there.
But we would represent.
Preserving the urban forest is a very critical thing.
And impervious coverage is also
And
very
impervious
critical.
coverage is very-
Yeah, I agree. We would make the driveway miss the existing trees that are on Third. That's it.
So would the driveway be shared then? Are you saying that the curb cut that's there will be shared between the two
No,
lots?
we want to have an independent driveway. My experience has been, and I'm sure our attorney can vouch for it, shared driveways just do not work.
My sister had a shared driveway and it was a nightmare for her
I had
for
one
years.
like the terror.
Who's gonna shovel?
You have problems with shoveling, you have liability questions, you have where the line is, whether we paint a white line down the driveway, so I could show you what side is my driveway and what side is your driveway, and you didn't shovel the snow good enough on my driveway. It's just much easier and cleaner to create two separate
No, I
driveways.
agree.
And do we, so then the street trees will remain?
Yeah, if the board will look at the plans, the idea would be to put the driveway in between the biggest gap in the street trees.
I don't know.
Where would the driveway go on lot?
Well, it looks like it's adjacent to the existing driveway.
Next to this.
Where would it go on the east side?
What's that?
Where would the driveway go on lot 9?
To the left, if you look, there's one.
To the east side.
Street trees, pretty much on lot 9. There's a gap between the first and second street tree in that area.
Oh, the biggest gap.
The biggest gap.
I don't know if there's somebody in the city who's charged with actually evaluating the street trees or in terms of condition, placement, whether they can be removed or not. I've been around that long, so I don't know. But my suggestion would be that during construction, that there be an evaluation by somebody who's qualified as an arborist, who would be able to evaluate the proximity of a driveway cut, because you are going to be cutting down the earth 90% of all those routes are within a foot of the top of the soil. So just putting in a driveway could shave off enough of the feeder routes.
But that's only a certain types of trees.
Listen, okay, I'm talking again. So in terms of this, so just cutting in that driveway and the ramp could do enough damage to necessitate the removal of that tree, even if it doesn't die right away. So my suggestion is that if that's the plan, that be built into the resolution, and that if such conditions do exist, then there's an evaluation, and that rather than waiting till the tree dies, a non-hanging tree, that it be replaced at that time.
Agreed. How do you write that as a resolution?
Well, I think we make it a condition of the approval.
I will also put out there that there do exist pervious driveway pavers or materials that can be used to allow, to try to mitigate for increasing the impervious cover.
I think at the last hearing, that was a suggestion, and Mr. Roberts did indicate that on a new lot, he would certainly consider putting paper driveways.
Yeah,
to it.
I'm more concerned about the existing lot, because that's the one that's 32% as opposed to 25%. So how can we work to get that 32% and work with an impervious surface of some sort, some sort of a surface that would make us feel better that you're not at 25%.
Yeah, because right now it's saying asphalt.
Right, because it's a huge asphalt driveway. It's a very long asphalt driveway. What can we discuss about that?
So we're concerned about.
Yeah, you'll have to be sworn in.
I'm sorry.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give during these proceedings will be the truth, or you may not be the truth?
I do.
State your name for the record and spell your last name.
Dennis Roberts, Roberts.
Thank you.
Thank you. So is it the drainage more so, or the actual coverage?
You're at 25%, and we're also we're concerned about drainage. We're concerned about coverage.
The driveway wouldn't be considered in coverage, would it? No. it's
No,
not
but
part of coverage.
but we're trying to
Effectively.
kind of right, because effectively it is part of coverage, but it's not considered part
I
of
think
coverage.
it's about, we're at 30 with the existing building.
We're at 32.
Yeah, so 2% over, I understand that.
7%, 25.
25.
Yep.
We have put in all new gutters and drainage on the home that really didn't exist before. I am very sensitive to that, to the drainage. I think I mentioned that to you last time. So certainly in a new house, we would incorporate some sort of underground drainage and things that would not exacerbate any issue. The lot where the existing house is does have plenty of grass and yard. So we've never had any flooding issues or anything like that. We're going to actually be removing that big asphalt playground thing that they had on the other yard. So that would even, eliminate some things there. Would you like me to incorporate some dry wells for the leaders?
I'm more concerned, personally, I'm more concerned about the driveway, that the whole coverage, like I said, is 32%, trying to get it closer to 25, or do something different with that driveway to change the pavers or something.
I guess this is a question. There's really not an impervious coverage requirement here. It's a building coverage, and that driveway doesn't.
It doesn't, because there are some other options that are possibilities. It's like to say, okay, it's not a 50-foot lot, it's a 52-foot lot, it's a 53-foot lot. And bringing it that way, and so that the percentages are more in line. Or do you say that, you know what, the two-car driveway, the two-car garage should be a one-car garage. Then you have more grass area. That's less than brings it closer to 25%. That's just my suggestion.
You mean actually shrinking the physical garage itself or the driveway?
No, the garage itself, because then you have more. Then you have more green space. If you change it from a two-car garage to a one-car garage, you have more green space, so you have less coverage. Brings it back to
well, the existing
something
garage
reasonable.
is there. It is in good shape. We have done some work to it. I would be willing to do something with the driveway if you'd like to do that. We had approached that last time. Would that think the board feel more comfortable to do something with the driveway, change it to some sort of stone or something, or, I mean,
Yes.
the asphalt works pretty well for people to get back there. You know, but if the board would feel more comfortable with something along those lines, for more green space on that, I think we need to do with the board.
Professionals.
Make a suggestion.
Sure.
To the board. So in my understanding, when the city designed the stormwater system for Asbury Park, they took into consideration, here's all the lots in the zone, and at 25% building coverage is the capacity we need to safely convey the stormwater somewhere. So as a potential solution, if the board would be open to a dry well or a perforated pipe to infiltrate the existing roof runoff on the existing building to bring the amount of runoff leaving the site down to the level of a 25% building coverage house.
That's kind of what I was getting at.
What's involved in that? Like, what's the process?
Yeah, what's the-
How,
So
from a cost perspective for the homeowner?
Right.
you mentioned new meters were recently installed. They can be piped underground near the house to a small system, somewhere in the rear yard. Cost may come from some sort of test pit that would need to be done to test the soil that it could infiltrate stormwater. Single test pit would suffice.
Could a rain barrel get you there?
Possibly.
No, we're not looking for anything that will be an issue for the.
Well, see, that's
homeowner.
my
I
concern.
prefer though the dry well to wherever.
Can I just ask a quick question? Aren't we changing the building coverage?
We're reducing it.
No, I'm just talking about our ordinance. Aren't we looking to increase that building coverage to 30%? Wasn't that one of our
That
recommendations?
was a recommendation in the master plan examination.
So that should
That's a consideration.
help you all a little bit, that it would only be a 2% rather than a 7% difference. if that
Although,
helps a
so the
little bit.
point still stands that the current system is to a 25% lot coverage, so let's do what we can in order to effectively meet that coverage. I think a dry well with a test of what the infiltration rate is makes a lot more sense than a rain barrel, just because a rain barrel is like a behavioral commitment. We don't know that people wouldn't just take the rain barrel and dump it right in the sewer.
And a mosquito breeding
Exactly.
So is this cost prohibitive, doing something like this, or is
I just
it?
have, this is just my concern.
Okay.
That the existing structures, asking the applicant to rip up his driveway and tear down his garage and make it a one-car garage, I think that's really just putting way too much.
I agree.
Agreed.
I agree. So I think we should come up with a solution that's
But that's a dry well. It's a
which is the most economically expedient for the applicant.
I don't want to speak to the engineer, he knows what's involved, as Ray would, but I mean, I'm a contractor, I do this every day. It is a lot. Now, if you want the test pit too, that means we have to dig it, and it gets, he would also charge us. I have to hire him, my engineer, to do it, to design it. He's gonna have to inspect it. It does get cost prohibitive. This is easily gonna turn into, I guess, at least a $5,000 bill that I'm done with some sort of perforated, what they call a recharge system. He's talking about recharging it in the ground. We do these, and Ray's done, we've done many of these projects together with similar things. Now, when we talk about the new house, we can kind of easily do that as we're doing excavation and foundation and things. It's more of something that's conducive to that type of situation. Here, I'm trying to think, because we have pavers in the back, and that, we did a little patio there to reduce the deck. I'm trying to think of now, if I can dig up the yard, how am I gonna do this effectively? And as you said, digging up the driveway is really kind of a shame, because people
Right, it
need
is.
to get to the driveway. I hate to reduce into the garage, because it's a good structure and people need garages. I mean, as I look at other houses around, I know that there's nothing about this house and the new lot that's it's not out of bounds in any way. It has probably more yard space than you see most places, both front and back. It's got tons of greenery.
Yeah, live right around the corner from you. I know where you
So
are.
if the objection is to the prohibitive cost of the testing, why don't you go ahead and install the dry well? We all know tests are sufficient across an area, so do it with the new house.
Another suggestion, and I'm just trying to open up the world of possibilities here, is what if the new house or the new lot had to have a local building? I mean, what would that look like? I don't know how big that building would be in relation to what's going on. And you don't have to build a dry well, and you don't have to test it, you don't have to pay any years, you just make it a smaller facility.
I don't know, I mean, we've already reduced that. I don't know what that would look like from the top of my head. I don't know what.
I wouldn't be opposed to them if they were to say install a infiltration system on the new lot. That would compensate for it. It would solve the same problem.
That's what we're looking for, is the way
Is
to
that-
solve it.
But I
I'm
mean,
fine
really,
with that.
the
Is that something-
installation isn't
is
the
that
cost. The
affordable?
dry well is not cost prohibitive.
For the new house.
I'm saying for the new.
For the new lot.
Right,
For the
I
new
can
lot.
do it there simultaneously along with some other things. I know what he would design, a recharge system, and I can incorporate that, and we know that it works very well. You basically don't, there's no, I mean, I have it on my house, my new house, you know, it's all underground, it all recharges. You don't have any, there's zero runoff, it goes on the ground, it gets recharged, literally, there is no runoff, so I'd be willing to do that, and I think that's a good compromise.
Yeah.
I think that
Sounds
would
good.
be
Yeah,
fine.
I think it would.
That would work.
That's just on the new house that would.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right. That's right, because the concern is, it's still, even though you're breaking up the lots, it's still in the same area. It still totals, we're in a better place.
Good design, and we'll make it part of the issue.
Well, what's the performance spec for it though? I mean, if you're not gonna say what the size of it is now, you gotta have a performance.
We usually do a water quality score. We do it pretty close.
First flush.
There's not an ordinance requirement for the amount of stormwater to recharge.
Right.
In this zone, or for this particular development, so, if the building coverage was compliant on the new lot and you were to infiltrate, say, the water quality storm, that would be sufficient.
You know, a lot of towns use 1 inch per square foot or 2 inches per square foot. It's in that water quality range.
I mean, he's a design professional, he'll design it, and build it according to that.
How do I put this in writings?
Yeah, that's my
Make a
point.
standard.
Yeah, there actually is terminology for it's a 1 inch or 2 inch storm, but it would be like
I want to be able to put a benchmark in and both sides know exactly what they have. Just putting it out there in generic terms.
Right. It's hard to enforce.
Problems down the road.
It's not gonna solve.
Pretty common thing is an inch of runoff over the entire affair.
Right.
That's right, that, if you just give that to Jack to put that into the conditions, we'll be okay with that. All right, is there anything else, any other questions from the board? No? Any other questions from the city professionals? We're okay? Public? Guess not. Okay, move to close.
with the path.
Sorry.
No, there was. Well, there's no public comment, obviously, so we'll do motion to open public comment.
Second.
Motion to close public comment.
Motion.
Okay,
Second.
great. Okay. Do we, no more board comment, then, Jack, do we have the, conditions that you have on there, so we can make sure we've got them all together?
Basically, the way I see it, heard it, is that the applicant is complying, has agreed to comply with the conditions that are actually conditions in the site, or recommendation, is that correct?
pretty much.
Is there any that you're not going to comply with? Number 11. The exception of number 11.
Yeah, exception number 1.
Yep.
Okay. You're going to perfect the subdivision by deed. So
That's
it's
right.
submitted to deeds, submitted to the board engineer attorney for review.
That's correct.
Now, the existing street trees, what was the outcome of that condition? What are we doing? Just want to take it down, or how do we get all that?
We said that we're good. We're going to be. There's going to be an evaluation of the trees and the curb cut by the. I guess that's by the city, or someone who's supposed to be.
Shade tree.
Shade tree.
Do the trees. Curb cuts have to be approved by public maintenance.
Right, but it would be right. It would be the curb cut and the impact on that on those trees, and see if we have to plant another.
Plant new
But
trees.
Who does that?
Shade tree does the trees. I just actually had a quick question regarding the curb cut driveway. That space between the two trees? You're
Normal
saying it's the
driveway,
widest?
normal,
How wide would that be?
normal driveway 8 to 10 feet. Your curb cut is usually 2 foot larger than that. So it'd be
Yeah, the
8.
requirement is 10 feet for the driveway and 12 for the,
12
do you
for
have the
curb cut.
12?
Yes.
Oh, yes. It's
Oh, yeah.
It's well far.
Okay.
Well bigger.
So what am I supposed to say?
Right, that the evaluation of the trees will be done by the Environmental Shade Tree Commission, and that the
Can
curb.
they make that determination about the curb cut having an effect on it, or do they just tell you that what you should use? Do they have that technical expertise?
Yeah, they don't examine.
They don't have that.
So then,
So who does it?
You guys on it?
Well, let's just say this should be replaced here. I mean, that,
If there's an
a
impact,
tree-
that it should be
If a
replaced.
tree is
Okay.
impacted, it
Okay.
should be
So
That's-
existing trees to remain or
be
replaced.
replaced.
If the curb
If
cuts-
it's killed.
Well, you don't even have to say that if they're,
yeah,
you know,
they need to be replaced.
remain or be
Just want to
replaced.
replace.
And the issue is that the damage is done. The tree may not die for like 5 years, right? Because you know it's going to die. But you hit the
I live in the neighborhood, I'll notice. I live in the neighborhood, I'll notice.
Rick will keep an eye on it. Okay. And
On the new lot, you're gonna use pervious pavers, driveway pavers, as recommended.
Or some sort of pervious, maybe it's stone.
Is stone driveway
Just-
permitted under our rule? Let's get Barb's one.
Swear affirm and testimony that during this proceedings will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do Barbara Wagner, zoning officer, assistant city planner.
What type of material is permitted to be used for driveway?
It has to be dust-free, compacted down, so it can't be that loose gravel that people just throw on top, so we have a very definitive, we have
With the
the,
favors, but it's fine.
Pavers.
it has to be, for 1 and 2 family houses, they allow you to have compacted,
Like 3/4 inch.
yeah, but it has to be compacted down, it can't just.
Can we
be
say
thrown.
pervious pavers are material allowed by city ordinance? Can
It
we
just
say
has
that to give you?
Well, they wouldn't
so
get
when
a
you
permit.
Get there.
They're not gonna get a permit.
If it doesn't
so
meet it.
Yep.
It would have to just be in compliance with.
Yeah.
the ordinance.
Permits, use of pavers or material permitted by ordinance.
yes.
Yes.
Okay, gonna install a dry well system on the new lot, on the new home. I'll get the technical information from you, how to correct that.
Yes. Anything else?
I think that's all.
Okay.
I move to approve the subdivision with the conditions that were read by the board attorney.
Second.
Who said that? Who was
It's Sarah.
that? Michael and. Sarah Ann Towery,
Yes.
Michael Manzella.
Yes.
Tony Perillo,
Yes.
Alexis Taylor.
Yes.
Rick Lampert,
Yes.
Allison McLeod.
Yes.
And Barbara Crippen.
Yes.
Okay, subdivision approved.
Thank you very much.
And so what's gonna happen to the yard sale? All the stuff that's in the
I
yard sale.
heard about that.
I know,
You don't
that'll
mind?
be nice to have.
They always have that big yard sale out there with your folks. I thought that was his lot. I'm surprised it's not his lot.
Thank you very much.
I know, that's
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, it really is. I don't know where you get all that crap from. I don't know where they keep all that crap when they go sell it, because it's always, they always have it like every 3 weeks. Oh, no. It's all sweet. I'm really surprised. I really can't believe that's not his line.
All right, we have the resolution for 5:45 later.
Anybody have any comments?
Any comments?
Nope. Mike Manzella?
Yes.
Barbara? Oh, someone's gotta move it.
I move that we approve the resolution.
I second.
Mike Manzella?
Yes.
Barbara Prizak?
Yes.
Allison McLeod?
Yes.
Sarah Ann Power?
Yes.
And Alexis Kidd.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Motion to, oh.
We had the
Oh,
committee
no, we're
stuff.
gonna talk about the, any committee updates. Anybody? Anybody?
No.
Up?
Master plan? So I finished the final draft of the implementation plan. I sent it out to the subcommittee members. Once they approve it, then I'll send it out to the rest of the planning board, and then once y'all approve it, we'll send it to the city manager.
So maybe what we can do is that, Barbara, we can figure out what date would work best for us to do that, because we should take some time. Should we do that maybe on the 30th or something like that? We'll have to figure out a date.
Oh, during the meeting?
During the meeting, we should do it during the meeting and just get it done.
So
And-
what meeting do you want to? 'Cause
is that the-
I don't have any applications really pending.
Don't we have one, we have one for the 30th, don't we have something for the 30th? Oh, no, that's only if there's an issue. Okay, we should do, I don't think that we need a special meeting for that, it should just be done during an existing meeting.
As I said, we're pretty, until, we have some sacrament applications that are gonna be coming, or be written away soon. But not within the next month,
Okay,
so.
that's fine, we'll wait
You
until
don't, you
the,
don't need a special meeting.
So no
no,
meeting?
no, just whenever the next meeting is that you have, that we should just put it on the agenda.
So no meeting in July?
So what meeting are we talking, the end of July?
The next meeting, the
next
next
meeting.
application?
Well, we'll see, I think that we have to see, because if there's
no application.
There's no applications, we won't, we
Yeah,
won't have.
there's no applications pending, so
Right.
it will really depend on when you wanna have this
No,
meeting to discuss this.
It'll just be whenever the next application, because the only other one that can come up is this resolution that we just passed. If they don't hit the July 30th, then they'll have to come back. Date. But if we don't have anything else, then obviously we don't want to have a meeting just to have a meeting.
Right.
So,
we have 45 days from today to do a resolution, for this last project, so
Wow.
we're well within.
yeah, we'll be well within.
And I don't know the timing on that referral from mayor and council. We don't wanna have that slip through the
No,
cracks.
absolutely.
I mean, I don't wanna bring it in for just that, but if I have to, I will. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't want you to go beyond, and that's amendment to a plan, that's not 35 days, I think it's 45.
I think it's 45.
Well, if there's enough little things.
Yeah, if there are enough little things, we can just put them all together and we'll have a quick meeting.
Yeah, believe me, Monday after July 4th, we have a short meeting, it's okay.
You'll be
Well,
busy.
we probably won't even be
Right.
then, it'll probably be after that. But, all right, anything else? No?
Actually, yes, it's
Okay.
open floor time.
Okay.
So I had learned today that there is a stormwater training that, as part of the municipal city MS4 permit, all planning and zoning board members are supposed to watch this training. It is a webinar. Barbara, I can send you the link to have it out to everybody. We're supposed to let the city officials know when we have watched it. Unfortunately, I only found out today that supposedly it was due July 1st. I will send it to everybody. Well, I'll send it to you if you can send it to everybody.
But it's also city officials. Okay.
Yes, it is
See,
planning
so it's
board,
not planning
zoning
board.
board, and the governing body, as well as the stormwater coordinator. They're all supposed to watch it. It's called Asking the Right Questions, and it's about stormwater management.
Cool.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
As well.
All in favor?
Aye.